So the test itself is on parabolas, circles, ellipses, and hyperbolas, both identifying the vertexes and all those things, as well as graphing them and completing the square. So in this first set of test review questions, it says identify the vertex direction of opening, identify the vertex direction of opening of each, then sketch the graph. So remember when you're doing the vertex. So start out by doing the vertex here. If I look at it, it's x is equal to, so that's kind of a key right there, is you got to be careful. So it also kind of tells us the opening that it's going to have. So if it's x equals, it either has to open left or right. Our a value is negative. So since our a value is negative, that means it's going to open this direction. It's going to open to the left. And then our vertex, you have to be careful with the vertex because it's y minus 3. So the y is inside parentheses. So my y value at the vertex is going to be 3 because it's the opposite anytime it's inside parentheses. And if it's outside parentheses, it's exactly what it is. So our vertex is 2, 3. So we draw that dot at 2, 3. We said that it opens to the left. So we just sketch it and graph it something like that. 100. Number 4 is the one we'll do next. It says write the equation in vertex form, identify the vertex direction and the opening of each. So in this case, we have to complete the square because it's not in the correct form. So remember, we always want our a value to be positive. Again, we're doing number 4. We want our a value to be positive, and we want it to be 1. So we want it to just be 1. So we're going to go x is equal to, we're going to factor out a 2 out of the y squared and the y. Because this is the part of the square that we need to complete. To complete that square, then, we have to add in what? 9. Okay, so we add in 9 there. But I'm going to keep it on the same side of the equation in here. So I'm not going to add in something now. I'm going to subtract. But what am I going to subtract? 9 or 18? 18. And it's 18 because we have to distribute that 2 back in there. So now we factor. X is equal to 2. This factors to y plus 3 squared. And then minus 4. Again, now we identify the direction. It's x equals a positive. So x equals a positive. A is equal to 2. So this is going to open to the right. And then our vertex, again, have to be careful. Our y value is negative 3. Our x value is negative 4. So completing the square. And you're going to have to do a lot of that tomorrow on the assessment. If you look at number 3, although we're not going to do number 3, make sure you subtract out make sure you make it positive. So take out a negative 1. Let's go down to number 6. Number 6, the directions say use the provided information to write the standard form of an equation of a circle. So standard form of an equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we know the center, so we could do the first part of it. So x minus negative 12, so it would be x plus 12 squared plus y plus 3 squared. Now we just have to find the r value. In this case, it tells us that the area is 25 pi. So remember, to find the area of a circle, it's pi times r squared. Well, we know the area is 25, so I can replace that with 25 pi equals pi r squared. Because area equals pi r squared is how I find the area of a circle, and that's what they give us. So I can replace that a with 25 pi. Now divide by pi, and you get r squared is equal to 25. Now there's no reason to find the square root of that because our formula is r squared. That's your answer. And you're done. Remember the distance formula? For number 8, we're not going to do number 8, but you'd have to use the distance formula to find that radius. The change in your x squared plus your change in your y squared, and then the square root of that. Okay. Next. So if we look at number 2, the directions for number 2 say identify the vertex direction and the direction of opening, and then sketch the graph. So it's a y equals, so we know this parabola. We've got a parabola, and we know that it has to kind of look like a y, so it's either going to open up or down. So we look at the a value. The a value, remember, is the value that's out in front of. There's nothing there, so it means it's positive. So a is positive, so this means this is going to open up. The vertex of it, remember, inside, if it's inside parentheses, it's the opposite of what you see. If it's outside of the parentheses, it's what you see. So it's x minus 5, so our x value is going to be 5. Our y value is going to be negative 2. So we put a dot at 5, negative 2. It goes in the upward direction. You color it in, make it look pretty, and you're done. And that's 2 points on your test, just for able to do that. That piece of the world ain't too bad. Obviously, where the most trying part of this test is going to be when we have to put them in vertex form by completing the square. We've completed the square so many times in here over these last 3 weeks that completing the square at this point for them should be second nature. So if we look at number 3, it's y is equal to negative x squared minus 12x minus 37. So we have to write the equation in vertex form, identify the vertex in the opening direction. So anytime we completed the square, the one thing we made sure of was that we made sure our a value was positive. So we're going to rewrite this as y is equal to, I'm going to factor out a negative. So if I factor out a negative from x squared, negative x squared, that just leaves me with x squared. But I also have to factor out a negative from negative 12x. So that's going to make it positive 12x. So at this point, I've got my a value and I've got my b value, so we can complete the square. So we're going to put plus something, and then the negative 37 is going to go on the outside of our parentheses because we're completing the square. But remember, when you complete the square, it's half of your b value. Our b value is 12, so half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Now, you have to be a little bit careful with this because of 2 things. One, we're on the same side of the equation. And 2, we've got that negative that needs to be distributed in there. So realistically, this is negative 36 that we've added in there, that we've added in negative 36. But since we're going to the opposite side of the equation, we need to put the opposite in there. So we're actually going to add 36 to this side. If we were going to the other side of it, if we were going to go y, we'd go y minus 36, because you put the same thing on the same sides. If it's on the opposite sides, on the same side, you put opposites. So now you factor. When you factor, remember, it's your variable, the sign of your b value and half of it squared, and then that gives us minus 1. So this is y equals The a value is negative, so this goes down. And then our center, or our vertex, is at -6, -1. So there are your three different solutions to that question. You have to be careful with that dang negative that's sitting in there. That creates issues a lot. So that's parabolas. The next thing we talked about then when we talked about all this fun stuff was we talked about circles. For these questions, we're going to do two of these. We're going to do 5 and 8. It says, use the information to write standard form of an equation of a circle. So standard form of an equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Which, if you don't remember it, page. So our center is at 7, -7. So when we're writing the equations, we write the opposite of what we have. So we've got x minus 7 squared plus y plus 7 squared equals r squared. R is 10. 10 squared is 100. That should be one of the easier questions you have on any test all year long. And you're done. 10 times 10. Square the radius. Yep. 10 comes from squaring the radius. Well, what if you're not given the radius? Like in 7. You guys get a bonus question because I have to do them anyway, so I'm just going to do them with you guys. So if we have a center that's -10, 1 and a circumference that's 8 pi, the first part of it is really easy. Just x plus 10 squared plus y minus 1 squared. But now we need to know what r squared is. So to find the circumference of a circle, the formula for the circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius. Well, our circumference, they tell us, is 8 pi. So I can replace the c with 8 pi. So 8 pi is equal to 2 pi r. Divide by 2 pi. That's kind of the cheating way to do it there. So you get 4 is equal to your radius. So what am I going to put up here if my radius is 4?
Would it be like 16?
It would be. Because 4 squared is 16. And you're done. Number 8. Number 8, they give us the center, -111. Okay, that's easy enough to write. X plus 1 squared plus y minus 11 squared. We still need our r value. R is the radius, but now they give us 2 points, so we have to find the distance between the 2 points. So the distance between the 2 points, which is going to give us our radius, is your change in x squared plus your change in y squared. So our x goes from -1 to -4. How much is it changing? 3. So that's 3 squared. If you want to put -3 squared, that's fine. It's still 9. The y value is going from 11 to 7, so it's changing by 4. Good job. 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. Square root of 25 is? So our radius for this is equal to 5. So what do we put?
5.
Geez, where'd that go? Square root of 5, or 5 squared is? 25. So there's your solution. And then you're done. And again, if you put -3 here and -4 there, it doesn't matter because -3 squared is 9.
Yeah.
and negative 4 squared is 16. So it just falls into the same place. Okay? Next page then. Identify the center and the radius in sketch. These are pretty easy. If I look at number 9, x plus 2 squared plus y squared equals 25. Our center, opposite of what you see in this parentheses, so negative 2. And if there's nothing, then it's just 0. And then our r squared is equal to 25, so the square root of that is plus or minus 5. So we've got a dot at negative 2, 0. And then from that, you can go up 5, left 5, down 5, and right 5. And then make sure you draw a nice clean circle. And you're done. Good. Number 12. Write an equation of a circle in standard form. Means we have to complete the square. So we put the x's together first. So x squared plus 12x. Might as well just complete the square while we're at it. 36. Half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Go to the y squareds. Go to the y's. That's a 30, not a 3. Half of 30 is 15. 15 squared is 225. Move the 257 to the other side of the equation. But now remember to add your 36 and add your 225. Take the x's and factor. Half of 12 is 6. Half of 30 is 15. I think that all comes out to 4. And that's all you had to do. You don't have to identify the center. You don't have to identify the radius. You're done at that point. That's completing the square of a circle. Next set. For an ellipse, identify the center and the vertices, then sketch. I remember when we identify them by just pointing them out. So the center, so we've got x minus 4 squared over 4. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. This is in your Schoology too. So x minus 4 squared over 4 plus y minus 2 squared over 25 equals 1. Center's easy enough. 4, 2. So I'm going to put a dot at 4, 2. A squared is equal to 4, so a is equal to the square root of 4 plus or minus 2. Now remember when we're doing these, because that's underneath the x value, that's 2 to the left and 2 to the right. B squared is equal to 25, so b is equal to plus or minus 5. So that means we go up 5 from our center. Put a dot. Down 5. Put a dot. I don't think that's 5. Huh, yeah, it is. Cool beans. Now those technically are our vertices because they're the longer of the two. But again, as long as you graph them, we're good to go. Now because it's an ellipse, make it and be done. Ta-da. Any questions with that one? It's right there on the next. Then, of course, you're going to identify the center and the radius and graph. Okay. Just got to go the opposite direction. So if we have x plus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 1, just making the video longer. I think anybody's going to watch it.
Are we doing 10?
Huh?
What was it? 10?
We're doing 10.
I'll watch it, guaranteed.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So the center, easy enough. Center is -3, -4. The radius squared is 1, so our radius is 1. Technically, yes. So radius is 1. So we put our center at -3, -4, which is right there. And then it has a radius of 1. So you just go up, down, left, and right 1 and put dots and then draw a circle. And you're done. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, so let's complete the square. So let's write an equation of a circle in standard form. And do number 11. X squared plus y squared minus 30x plus 14y plus 265 equals 0.
So x squared minus 30.
Yes. So we rewrite it. X squared minus 30x. Now we're going to complete the square with that. Half of 30, 15 squared, 225. Nice job. So we've completed the x's. Now we go to the y's. So plus y squared plus 14y. Half of 14, 7 squared, 49. And then we're going to move the negative, we're going to move the 265 to the other side, make it negative. And then what do I have to add? Okay, so because of lack of room, I have to add 225 and 49 to that side. So now we're going to factor this. Remember, when you factor, your variable is your variable. Minus, because it's minus 30, half of negative 30 is 15. So it's x minus 15 squared. Plus, we've got our variable y. Half of positive 14 is positive 7. So that's our square.
Is it 14? I don't know. I think like
40, negative 40, I think it's 9, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Equals 9. And because it's a circle, you're done. Circles don't have to equal 1. Circles equal the radius squared. So you're done. You don't have to find the center, you don't have to find the radius, you don't have to graph it, you don't have to do anything with it. You just have to put it in that form. Once it's in that form, you're done. Now it all just becomes just doing it just like we're doing. You'll graph one, you'll complete a square. You'll graph one, you'll complete a square. So for 14, we're going to sketch it. Now it says for the ellipse. Well, I guess that means it's an ellipse. Okay. It says identify the center and the vertices. In here, we identify the vertices by just putting the points. If you're in Ryan's class and you're watching this video, do whatever Ryan said you had to do. Which I think is write them down. Okay, so we find the center. Again, center is at
1 and 0.
negative 1. Negative 1 and 0. Opposite if it's size parentheses. So negative 1, 0, we put a dot there. The value underneath the x value is our a squared. So a squared is 9, but we need the a value. So a is equal to the square root of that, which is plus or minus 3. So then on our graph, because it's underneath the x value, that's telling us left and right. So from our center, you go left 3 and right 3. And you put dots, which are points mathematically. Our b squared is equal to 4. So b is equal to plus or minus 2. Because it's underneath the y value, that means up 2 and down 2. Now you're just asked to sketch the graph. This is an ellipse. So when we do the ellipse, remember an ellipse looks like a track. And you're done.
Oh, okay.
That's the math, that's.
Is it square root of like
Yeah.
9?
Okay. And that's plus
Yippers. Good? No. No. Go. Slow down, Ederson. Guess what you get to do next? It just becomes kind of do this, do that. I mean, now we're doing the same thing. Now we're just completing the square to write in standard form of an equation of an ellipse. It's the same thing we did when we did the last one. We've got x squared plus 4y squared minus 10x minus 40y plus 61. So we're going to put the x's together. So x squared minus 10x. Complete that square. 5 squared is 25. Plus, now we've got 4y squared. So I'm going to factor a 4 out of there. So if I factor a 4 out of 4y squared, I'm left with y squared minus, if I take 4 out of 40, 10 again, right? Now I have to complete that square, which again is 25. Now that's going to equal negative 61 plus 25 plus what else? Plus 100. Again, make sure you distribute that 4. Factor, that's x minus 5 squared plus 4 times y minus 5 squared equals, no idea. Can't do that one in my head. Negative 61 plus 125. 64? Which probably makes sense. But it has to equal 1. So we divide everything by 64. So that's y minus 5 squared over 64 plus 4 goes into 64 16 times. So y minus 5 squared over 16 equals 1. And they're done. The last type then is hyperbolas. State the center and graph. So we've got x squared over 25 minus y plus 1 squared over 10. Ooh, that's not a very nice number. Equals 1. Yuck. Center is easy enough. 0, negative 1. Put a dot there. A squared is 25. So A is plus or minus 5. It's underneath the x value. So that means we go left 5 and right 5, and we just put dots. Yuck. B squared is 10, so B is equal to plus or minus the square root of 10, which is a little over 3. So we're going to go up just a little over 3 and down just a little over 3. Put dots. And then remember when we did the hyperbolas, we drew the rectangle. Once we had that rectangle, we do rays from the center through each of the corners. And then because it's X first, that means it needs to look, they need to go in the X. So we follow the asymptote line through that vertex and down. Follow the asymptote line through the vertex and down. Again, the blue there is the hyperbola. The rest is just to help us draw it. And then the last one we'll do together. Use the information provided to write standard form of an equation of a hyperbola. So we've got x squared, we'll do number 19. X squared minus 9y squared plus 20x minus 54y minus 62 equals 0. Put it in order. So we always want our positive to go first. So our x is positive. So we're going to go x squared plus 20x plus complete the square. Half of 20, 10. 10 squared is 100. This is now where we get in trouble a little bit. We have to take out a negative 9. If I take negative 9 out of negative y squared, that leaves me with y squared. If I take a negative 9 out of negative 54, that gives me plus 6y. Negative 54 divided by negative 9 is positive 6. Complete the square, still plus 9, half of 6. So we've got 62 plus 100. That's not the hard part. Now what do I do? To minus 81. Negative 9 times 9 is negative 81. That's why that needs to be a negative 81. Factor, x plus 10 squared minus 9 times y plus 3 squared. $81? 81 would make sense. Divide by 81. So we've got x plus 10 squared over 81 minus y plus 3 squared over 9 equals 1. That's what your test is going to look like tomorrow. Okay. My suggestion to you, do what you need to do to make sure you're prepared for complete the square. Okay, so we're going to do this x squared. We're doing number 16. Sorry that other one kind of ran into it. So we've got x squared plus 16y squared. So we've got that number out in front of our y squared now. So we're going to have to do with that. Plus 18x minus 64y plus 1 equals 0. So we're going to start with our x's. So rewrite it. X squared plus 18x. Complete that square. 81. Half of 18 squared. Plus, now we've got a little issue. We've got 16y squared. So that means we have to factor out a 16. So if I factor out a 16 from 16y squared, I'm left with y squared. Now I've got minus 64y. So I have to factor out a 16 from negative 64, and that's negative 4. So that's negative 4y. Complete the square. 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Subtract 1 from both sides, so I've got minus 1. I've got to add 81. That's the easy one. What else do I have to add? I have to add 64. 16 times 4 is 64. Factor, x squared plus 18x plus 81. Half of 18 is plus 9. So that's x plus 9 squared plus 16. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. $81, 144. Negative 1 plus 81 plus 64. Now divide by 144. Because in a hyperbola and an ellipse, we're doing ellipses now, it has to equal 1. So that's x plus 9 squared over 144 plus y minus 2 squared over 9. Reduce 16 over 144. There's your answer. You're done. Ta-da. Number 18, for the hyperbola. State the center, vertices, and graph. And again, the vertices, whatever. For my class. Ryan's class, do what you do. So we've got y plus 2 squared over 9 minus, and that's what tells us it's a hyperbola because it's minus. X minus 1 squared over 4 equals 1, 7, 12, 1. Center. Let's change colors. I'm tired of that color. Center is? Be careful. 1 and be careful. Why is it 1 and negative 2? It's x minus 1. Remember, the x goes with the x and the y goes with the y. Be careful. It's easy to mess up. Make sure your x goes with the x and y goes with the y. A squared equals 9. So a is equal to plus or minus 3. So we've got at 1, negative 2, we put a dot or a point. And now, the a value is underneath the y value. So that tells us I have to go up 3 and down 3 for my points. Because it's underneath the y value is why that is. A squared is equal to 4. So a is equal to positive or negative 2. So that tells me I have to go right 2, put a point, and left 2, and put a point. Now it's a hyperbola. So because it's a hyperbola, we draw a rectangle. We draw rays from our center through the corners to create our asymptote lines. Last part, because it's y equals, it's going to look like a y-ish type thing. So it's going to start up here, go through the vertice, and up. And then same thing down here. You're done. And remember, the only graph really is the red. The rest of it is just help to graph it. Dramatic effect. Last one. So we've got negative x squared plus 16y squared minus 18x minus 192y plus 351. So the difference between hyperbolas and ellipses. That symbol right there. The negative. Right. But when we put these in order, remember we have to start, we want to do the y value first because that's our one that's positive. So we've got 16y squared. So what do I have to factor out of the y's? 16. So I'm going to factor 16 out of there. That leaves me with y squared minus, now we get 12 because 192 divided by 16 is 12. Okay, so that's minus 12y. Complete the square. Plus 36. Ooh, that's a big number. Wow. Oh, well. Minus. We've got to factor out that minus. So that's going to give me x squared. What?
X squared, 18, 9,
So
81.
we have to take it out of this one as well, right? So if I factor a negative out of there, what do I have left? Positive 18x. Complete the square. Half of 18, 9. 9 squared is 81. Running out of room. Equals negative 351 plus 16 times 36. 576. Where did this 576 come from? 16 times 36. Now, is it plus 81 or minus 81? It's minus 81. Because again, this needs to be distributed in there. Now we factor 16. Y, half of negative 12 is negative 6. Half of 18 is 9. Whatever that is. Negative 351 plus 576 minus 81. 144, which is a nice number. It's a hyperbola, so it has to equal 1. Divide everything by 144. 9. I think we've done that one about 8 times now. Y minus 6 squared over 9 minus x plus 9 squared over 144. Well, the minus symbol right there takes care of that. Equals 1. And there you're done. That's the test.